Well, thanks for joining me this morning. This is part of my initiative I'm calling it Wine Country Distillery Festival Live. And so it's just an opportunity for a little bit more of an in-depth dive in the distilleries that have participated at the Wine Country Distillery Festival. And so today we're going to do Meet the Maker. And you did fill out that questionnaire. And so it's going to be, similar, and maybe digging a little bit deeper into that and learning a little bit more about you and the distillery. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what distillery you're with, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, yep. I'm Abe Stevens. I am the founder / distiller of Humboldt Distillery. We are a small distillery up on the North Coast in Humboldt County, and this is our 7th year. Actually, we'll hit our 7-year anniversary next week of selling our bottle of vodka.
Congratulations.
So, thanks. It doesn't seem like it's been that long.
I'm sure it's flown by.
Yep. So 7 years, and it's been going well. I had originally had ambitions of making, everything. I was going to make vodka, rum, whiskey, gin, absinthe, brandy, the whole gamut. I was eager and I still am interested, but we came out with the organic vodka first. That one doesn't require any aging, and a lot of people make vodka, so that was kind of our first product, and proved to be pretty popular. And so that's we spent the last 7 years playing catch up, trying to keep up the vodka and try and do a little bit of the other products on the side when we get a chance.
So how many? What is your guys' spirit lineup? What's your full lineup?
So our organic vodka, that is our best seller. We sell more of that than all the other things. I've got a few visual aids here.
Great.
You can see them. So the organic vodka. So hopefully for you and anyone else that's going to be viewing, they can find that at a lot of retailers throughout California. Then we have our Humboldt's Finest. This is our hemp-infused vodka.
Okay.
So this one is, as we were out selling the organic vodka, people kept asking, well, from Humboldt County, Humboldt's known for, known for redwood trees and pot growing. And people kept asking, oh, well, when are you going to put some of that local flavor into your vodka?
Right.
So that over and over again so much that we had customers always right. So we did some experimental batches. Anyway, Humboldt's Finest was the result. It's hemp infused, not marijuana infused. And then this is actually pretty popular too. It's our certified organic spiced rum. And this one, it's popular year round. Even in the summertime, people can make dark and stormy type cocktails and put it in a lot of different mixers. But it's especially popular around the holidays and the wintertime.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
We do also make a little bit of organic whiskey. We've got organic malt whiskey. It's available at just a handful of retailers.
Okay.
And a few bars and restaurants, when they're open at least.
Yeah.
And we have a gold rum. And let's see what else. We have a couple spirits that have been aging for years now. We have yet to bottle. So we have a dark rum. It's really heavy, kind of molasses-based rum. It's got it's kind of full body, extra flavorful. Requires a longer aging process. Okay. And then we've also been putting away a decent amount of organic apple brandy.
Oh.
And that is also aging currently, and we expect we will bottle some of that this year. At some point in the coming months.
Nice.
With those aging spirits, it's easy to procrastinate. When things get busy and other things happen, you say, "Oh, should we bottle some of that?"
You just leave it in there a little longer. It's fine.
Yeah. Or should we just? It keeps getting better with age. Let's just let it go for a few more months. We'll worry about it then.
Nice.
And in any case, those ones are coming out eventually.
Exciting. So those three main ones, those first ones you showed, those ones are more regularly available kind
That's
of
right.
across the state or still specifically Northern California?
Oh, you can definitely find them easier in Northern California,
Okay.
but you can find them if you do a little homework. You can find all of them statewide.
Okay.
There are
And do
even a
you,
handful of states, outside of California, you can find them in.
oh, great. Do you have a store locator on your guys' website if somebody wanted to come and
Yes.
look?
Yeah, we
Oh,
do.
perfect.
Yep.
Great.
HumboldtDistillery.com.
Nice. And so how did you get into the distilling realm? I mean, it seems kind of like a strange one to jump into if it's not something you like
Sure.
either
Well,
doing.
yeah, so I'm from Humboldt County originally. This for people that haven't been, it's I know it's just a really beautiful region. We have majestic redwood trees, national park, just down the road from the state park, just down the road, and a lot of mountains and rivers on the interior, and then the coast. We have
Right.
rocky coastline and sandy beaches, and a lot of natural features. And I never took it for granted growing up here. But I did move away to go to college. I studied chemistry, then moved around quite a bit, working in the pharmaceutical industry as a chemist.
Sure.
And so I don't know, we kind of bounced around from, San Francisco Bay Area to New York City to the Midwest. My wife and I had a daughter and wanted to move back to Humboldt. It's a good place to grow up as a kid, and I personally was kind of missing the hiking and fishing and recreational opportunities and just the natural scenery. But
yeah, there's something special about being from this area, I think.
Sure. But the one thing that we are lacking here are a lot of good quality professional jobs. So,
I see.
So starting the distillery was kind of a way to move back and create our own jobs in the process. And I enjoyed the technical side of it. As a kid, I always wanted to have my own laboratory, and
and now you do.
Yep. So it's worked out well. It also helps that it's a fun industry.
Yeah.
And I don't a lot of the serves are celebration focused. There's usually something fun behind.
Right.
We're enjoying our products.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's a fun industry to be in, and it usually is wrapped up with celebration, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in any case, yeah. So basically, I mean, that was the original reason, was just kind of a way to, create our own job and move back to Humboldt. And I like being my own boss as well. So
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
So let's see what else. You have some fun stuff in here. So you were saying that your go-to cocktail is a Mai Tai?
That's right. So
how did you fall in love with a Mai Tai?
Well, my personal taste, I enjoy rum a little better than whiskey.
Okay.
I mean, I do enjoy whiskey too, but in my opinion, there's a wider variety of flavors and complexity in all the different styles of rum. So it's always interesting to explore rum. But the Mai Tai in particular, that's just a kind of a classic tiki sort of drink that was, originated, 80 years ago now, I guess, 70, 80 years ago.
Yeah, probably.
When tiki bars just started becoming popular. And but there really isn't a hard and fast rule on what a Mai Tai is supposed to have in it. Generally, it should have some almond component in rum,
right?
And a little sweet and sour, basically, But yeah, I mean, in any case, every place that I go to has their own interpretation of what it is, and so it's just been interesting to see how classic tiki type establishments do it versus more upscale craft
right.
cocktail bars, as well as even just dive bars, and just the interesting ways and approaches people have. Sometimes it's way too sweet, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they use.
I agree with you that it's everyone's approach is a little different.
Yep.
And like for me personally, I'm allergic to pineapple.
Uh-huh.
And so if any of them have pineapple in it, it's kind of like a no-go for me. So
Yep.
it's, and which is hard to find sometimes. And so it's always a pleasant surprise when like it's more of like the simple classic version of where it is really just like a sweet and sour of the almond orgeat and rum, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so in any case, it's the same like when I go out to eat too. I usually get a Caesar salad, like most places I go, just because I enjoy Caesar salads, but it's also fun to see how different
Yeah,
restaurants approach it.
everybody's different take on it
Yeah.
for sure. So a couple other things. So you had mentioned I had asked like, what do you love about the industry? And you said the innovation. And so and then also like tied into that, you really enjoy learning about like the overlooked spirits. So what do you think some of the overlooked spirits are, and the innovation to maybe bring them back?
Sure. Well, so yeah, I mean, so I guess as far as innovation goes, I mean, I think the craft spirits, I guess ultimately got started, years ago when with places like Clear Creek Distillery, even St. George and um, Germain Raban. They've been at it for 20, 30 plus years, but
Right.
it's been in the more recent decade or so that there have been a lot of, the explosion of micro distilleries happened, and kind of as almost a necessity, they had to kind of innovate and kind of create new stuff that was a little different than what the big, Jim Beams and the Cardis of the world were doing.
Right.
So there has been a lot of new and interesting spirits that people have been making just because it's, they've either had to, or they were limited in time, or, materials
Sure.
or whatever. So that's just been interesting to see. But as far as, you know, obscure spirits that go, there's all kinds of them out there. And I think with the kind of the resurgence of the cocktail culture and micro distilleries, people are starting to appreciate them a little more. In my my personal kind of taste would favor fruit brandies.
Uh-huh.
So that's something that I've been looking forward to doing more of when I find a little time, just to do some small experimental batches. I'm
Is
planning
there a
a
specific fruit in mind that you really want to try that with?
well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, in the U.S., brandy was really popular. In fact, brandy and rum were the go-to spirits before whiskey. Back in the colonial days, and brandy was much more popular than it is now. And people would make from all kinds of fruit, from peach brandy, cherry
Sure.
brandy, plum brandy. I'm getting ready to do a small experimental batch of raisin brandy soon,
Oh,
and of course,
interesting.
apple brandy also has a really long history in the
Yes.
U.S., which we have already been making it in decent quantities. But California has just such a big, wide variety of fruit that I'm kind of looking to do a little experimenting. We are doing we have done a pear brandy in the past, which is not
Okay.
uncommon. There are a lot of distilleries doing that.
Right.
Uh, and I mean, plum brandy is, I mean, that's really popular in like the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe. And
Nice.
we really haven't had, there isn't a lot of plum brandy domestically.
No.
There is, I mean, you can find it if you look, but um, um, it's actually pretty tasty, when it's made right. And it
The
anyway,
raisin brandy sounds really interesting.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, traditional. I mean, yeah, most traditional brandy is made from, from grapes. Actually, a lot of distilleries are just using, actual, traditional varieties of, wine grapes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really not that different than winemaking, um, and with the distillation. But with raisin brandy, you get a little bit of different character. The fruit obviously goes through, the grapes go through a lot of changes when it's
Right.
dried and cured into raisins, and it provides an interesting kind of complexity to the spirit.
Yeah, I could imagine that would be a really unique and a complex flavor. Truthfully, I mean, raisins are, like you said, they go through all these changes, and I'm a big golden raisin fan versus like a dark raisin fan, and so I could even see those having big character flavor differences.
Yeah, and if you think about, with distillation, a lot of times what you're capturing is the aroma, more than the flavor, because a lot of the components like the sugars and stuff that you would taste when you're eating a grape or a raisin aren't going to distill over, but the aroma. So if you can kind of imagine the difference from the aroma between a fresh grape and a raisin, could kind of give you a rough idea of what you would hope to achieve in the distilled spirit.
How interesting! Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look for that one in a few years.
California is a big producer of raisins too. So.
Yeah. No, there's definitely. I mean, California, like you said, is got a pretty big fruit basket, so to speak, to pick from, which is great. I mean, even if you think of all of the things that are produced here, right? So from like olives and nuts and fruit and citrus, and so yeah, it's a fun opportunity to have a little mixing and matching session.
Yep.
Very cool.
And in any case, and they're all also just in other countries. I won't even try and pronounce the names of the spirits, but I've had friends that have sent me stuff from Colombia and the Philippines that have had some really unique, interesting local flavors. That there's a lot of stuff globally, a lot of spirits that are made at a small scale that I think are ripe for exploration.
Yeah.
Assuming someone has the time, which is always a challenge with us here.
Sure. I recently did a gin tasting. Actually, it was a gin from Germany and a gin from Italy, and then a gin from here, and it was so interesting that like the flavor components that they were choosing to bring out and highlight in those gins were really flavor specific almost for those countries. There was a lot of like dill, kind of on the German gin, and it reminded me very much of like a pickle brine almost, and so it's really, really interesting. And then like Italy was a completely different approach, so it was fun to even do that kind of international comparison to see the flavor differences on something that's so kind of like quote unquote traditional.
Sure.
Yeah, so very cool. That's fun. What else? Let's see. So right now you guys are not doing any direct sales at the distillery, is that correct?
That's right.
But folks can find them at like the local grocers. Like I know for a fact, I think I've seen your vodka, at least I think I've seen it. We have a local grocery here called Pacific Market here in Santa Rosa, and so I've bought it from there. I can't recall if I've seen it at a Safeway or not.
Sure. It's at a handful of Safeways. And so in the Sonoma region, you can find it at Oliver's Market or Pacific Market. It is also at it's in all of the Whole Foods that have liquor. Some of them are beer or wine only. But about half of the Whole Food stores sell spirits. And so you can find stuff there. As well as you can even find it at CVS Pharmacy and some Targets.
Okay.
But also, more independent wine and spirit shops. Bottle Barn, for instance, they have all of our spirits.
Perfect. Yeah, and I know that they just started doing some online delivery too, so that's always an option for folks if they need that.
Oh yeah, and so you have a lot of the online services like Grizzly, for instance, and the bigger kind of retailers have an online presence. And if people go to our website, we have some links to the online and delivery options.
Okay, great. That's awesome. I'll make sure to highlight that when I get everything posted. So, what are some of your favorite kind of neighbor brands? I mean, I know Humboldt has several distilleries up there, and as well as down here. Do you have any, like, if you're not drinking your own spirit, what craft spirit brand are you drinking?
Well, so Jermaine Raban is in Ukiah or near
Mm-hmm.
Ukiah in Mendocino. They've been at it for, I don't know, 30 years or more. I don't even
Yeah.
know. And so they make really fine brandy. Um, I haven't. They were bought out recently by NJ Gallo maybe a year ago. I haven't tried their stuff since then, so
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure if that has affected the products. But they have definitely, when it comes to brandy, they are definitely a distillery that we kind of look to see what they are doing, and then
Nice.
try and see how our stuff measures up to theirs, which is will always be a challenge because they've had such a just
The
the length of
time.
time they've been in business. They've been able to age stuff for years and decades.
Right.
Um, and then I don't know. There's a small local distillery here in Humboldt called Jewel. They make a tasty gin. We
Oh,
don't make a gin currently ourselves, so they're kind of our go-to gin.
nice.
And I don't know. I mean, we're on pretty friendly terms with the other distillers. We use Sonoma Distilling.
Uh-huh.
We use a lot of their bourbon barrels
Oh,
to
nice.
we reuse those for aging our rum and apple brandy in.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
And
they've got a nice product.
yeah, so it's kind of it's a small world, the distilling
Yeah,
community.
it's
So
very much a community. I think that's, I've had an opportunity to speak with a few distilleries, and whether they once were an apprentice of somebody's or worked together in some form, whether
mhm,
that was that behind a bar or it's very much a small world, and I think that has something to do with being also up here in Sonoma County, Northern California. All in all, it's still a small world at the end of the day, but
yep,
it's great to see that it really does have a good solid community behind it.
yep.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
And it was fun to chat, and I'm excited I think we're going to get a cocktail here from a local Humboldt bartender from you guys, and we're going to create that. I'm going to create that on Friday for happy hour, so I'm looking
Yep.
forward to that.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
hope you enjoy it.
Thanks, Dave. I'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.